And we're live.
And we're live?
Yes, we are.
Dang!
In today's episode, we're exposing Harvey.
Yeah, we are. We're just reading through some comments, that's all.
I'm
That's all I was doing.
just gonna cut that.
Okay.
But that's the main cold start.
Alright.
I don't think I got any of that though.
Oh, okay.
So you have to feel like everything's happening.
Alright, guys. So basically, what I'm reading here why all beliefs must be scrutinized. To prevent rejection of valid information, beliefs shape behavior. Conscience diseases. Let's see. Yeah, I don't even know how to put it.
Oh man, that was fucking funny.
I don't even know. I don't even know where to start. It's just I'm looking at. I just paused in the middle of the video, and it just has. I need to listen.
And it was like a whole thing.
It was a whole chart, and I couldn't. I don't know. But yeah, basically, what were we talking about before we hit record?
I think we were talking about belief systems.
Oh yeah. So like we were giving the example of like about why beliefs should be questioned, and there's this saying that goes if you can't allow someone to criticize or question your beliefs, you don't. I'll just read it.
Read it, please read it.
Let's
I'm pretty sure, like, we were just emphasizing about beliefs, and we were talking about when does one know when you're talking to someone about their beliefs, if they can be kind of swayed towards a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a right or a wrong way though?
Yeah, there's oh man, yeah, that gets into a lot.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Here, look, let's start off with this because it says okay, if someone honestly thinks that what they believe is true, they should also think that it would hold up to scrutiny or criticism, or questioning. So to deny someone questioning your own beliefs, you also deny your beliefs. You know what I mean? So like, if you don't think that it can stand up to criticism, if you're just like, just respect my beliefs, man, like and cut it off right there, it's like you're denying your own belief. You don't think that your belief can stand up to criticism. It doesn't have like a logical basis, for why you even believe in it in the first place. Like you don't have answers for it. You just believe it blindly. You don't have any good logical reasoning against it.
Dang. So, but that means someone that believes in something very wholeheartedly will come up with anything though to keep that belief intact, right?
Exactly. Even if it means telling the other person, well, look, honestly, you believe what you believe, I'm gonna keep believing what I believe. That's just a way to like prohibit any further conversation because they're getting uncomfortable. So it's like one of those things is like with diseases, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, and this is like more the extreme example because this is a person that like rejects common sense.
Yeah.
And people can balance out belief with common sense, but in this case this person doesn't. So like there's this person, right? And they have like I don't know, let's call it what's it called? A terminal illness, right?
Yeah, terminal. Oh.
Or maybe before it gets to a terminal. But they have an illness and they're getting sick, they're getting frail, they're losing weight rapidly, they're just look tired and fatigued constantly. And in this example, they have like a family member come up to them and say, "Hey, like you've lost a lot of weight, like you look sick, maybe you should go get that checked out."
Yeah.
And they tell them, no, God's gonna heal this. I've been praying every day. It's just a matter of time before this thing goes away, right? Like I believe that this is that God's gonna heal me, right? This is the example. And the person's like, no, but like you should still get it treated. Like it's fine if you do that, but like come get it treated. And the person feels like no, because by doing that, I feel like I'm lessening God's power, right? They feel like they're being rude or harmful to God. Like it's blasphemy to say that this other man can fix it, but God himself can't, right? So in that person's mind, they have like this battle of like, no, absolutely not. God can heal this. I'm not gonna lessen the power of God and say I have to go somewhere else to get this healed. Like God is gonna heal me. And the family members are all worried because they're like, you should still get this checked out regardless of what your belief is. But because that person is so just strict or so like just against all that, because they're so close-minded to any of that, they're never going to get it checked out. And so let's say it gets to a point where this illness becomes terminal, right? They have like a few days left, and maybe they know it too, right? And so then in that path, where God didn't end up healing them, they'll just justify and say, oh, God just decided it's my time to go. It's all good. And all the family members are like, this could have been prevented if you would have caught it early on. If we would have gotten you checked out, if we would have gotten you diagnosed, this was a preventable illness. And you still decided that, no, like God was going to heal you. And the person's like, no, 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 it's fine. Like, I've been praying about it. And God honestly just said that, it was my time to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my time to go. I can't argue with God. You can't argue with God either.
For sure.
And so all the family members are just like, well, what do we do with this person? They're so stubborn in their beliefs that they're not willing to admit that they were wrong.
Yeah.
They're just saying that either way could have been, because like let's say that person was healed, right? They did something, or started doing something differently or whatever.
Became healthy.
They just became healthy, right? They'll say, "Oh, see, I told you God was going to heal me," right? But if that doesn't go to the plan, they go off and like rather than admitting that they're wrong, they'll say, "Oh, well, it was still God's plan either way." When it could have been prevented if they would have like listened to earlier advice and stuff like that.
For sure.
So that's when it comes to the whole critical thinking that we were talking about earlier, about how people refuse and block out information just because it contradicts their own beliefs and values. Like for that one person, that was a contradictory belief in which, no, I can't, God is more powerful than any disease. God is more powerful than all this, And, whether you agree with that or not, why not also take the preventative measures to make sure that doesn't escalate, right? Because what if God's healing is in the form of science? What if God's healing comes in the form of that? Like you can only challenge that belief system so far.
To a certain point, right?
To a certain point. And, it's just up to that person, depending on how stubborn they are, depending on how they justify it, it's up to that person at the end of the day.
Yeah, that, depending up to that person. And I feel like a backtracking question that can lead into conversations that kind of, because people tend to cut it, right? Before, because it feels uncomfortable.
Exactly.
But I guess, like, my question to you is, like, why are these conversations so important, and are they needed for change? Because I also want to add, there's a point that I want to add to that question, is I feel like these conversations too lead to progression, right?
Yeah, and I think they should, because it prevents more situations like that from happening. Where death like that can be prevented, where you grew up in a belief system that ignores, logic, that ignores things like that, and you grow up in that family, you're going to keep spreading this dangerous ideology of like, just ignore things that contradict my beliefs. Yes, we used a religious example, but it goes outside of that. Just any example you can think of. When something contradicts your own beliefs and you've been raised and taught to, just no, follow,
shut it.
Yeah, shut it down, just follow what we've been doing. We're the ones that are right. You need to ignore other people. These people, you have all these walls, right? And that's dangerous, because if you can't learn to at least have your own beliefs questioned and like at least listen to the other person, then you're just going to keep spreading this, and you're going to, it can get to a point where it leads to death. That was an extreme example where it was like a death or life situation.
Yeah, that's an extreme one.
But there's even examples where like it can be a career choice, it can be, family matters. It can be the person you marry, it's like these situations too can be affected just because you weren't willing to take, criticism or questioning to your own belief. So it absolutely, these things do need to be questioned and criticized, and you need to be open to these things, obviously within respectful boundaries.
I was going to say,
you do need to be open to at least receiving criticism.
At what point is it like too much, right? Because say someone agrees and there's extreme ends of agreeing, right? So like, what if someone believes, understands what they're saying, but they turn it into a whole other thing?
Is there like an example to this?
Man, I just remember, it's because when people have like some sort of spiritual awakening and say they're more, they feel spiritually awake, and maybe they took in a substance or something, and they come out and they're so, out there. I don't know how to explain it. What was that guy's name specifically?
Connor Murphy?
Yeah, Connor Murphy.
Too open-minded.
He kind of reminds me of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, like, is there a danger zone of being too open-minded and too closed off? And should we aim to be in a balance, or is one side right and is one side wrong?
No, I think there definitely needs to be a balance, because, like, at the end of the day, right, you could be born into different parts of the world, have two different religions, but how much of that is it going to really affect your life or affect the other? Whether that other person agrees with you or not, it's really not going to affect you. Whether, like vice versa. So it's like, that's an example of it not really affecting each other in that way, because, you believe your own things, it's going to help your life in certain ways, right? And then you're going to die anyway, and then whatever, right? So in the grand scheme of things, it's not that dangerous, right? But it's like, when you're raised a certain way, I think it is your job to question certain things and not also just believe everything,
I
right?
agree.
Because like when you start entering the real world, and let's say you like to get out of your comfort zone, right? You start traveling to different places or
For
seeing
sure.
different cultures or different ideas and beliefs and whatever. That's a good thing because you're immersing yourself in different experiences. You're not just stuck in one spot with one same belief system.
Mm-hmm.
But you also, I wouldn't say risk, but you also have this chance of just letting everything come your way and believing everything,
Yeah.
And but what's the danger in believing too much of everything, right?
Yeah.
Because like, is there more danger in being too close minded and only believing what you've been raised to believe, or being too open minded and believing everything?
Yeah, and that's what I think. That's where I'm trying to find like how does one like individual discern whether they're like balanced
Mm.
or whether they lean one way or another, and if they should be more open minded or decide, what this person is saying doesn't make sense and close off to it.
Mm. I think it should be, man. I think it should be like, I think conversations and debates help you get there too,
For sure.
because you decide what it is that actually stands firm. Or if something breaks through your belief system, you're like, oh man, that makes
Start to
sense.
question your own
You
stuff.
start to question it and you can apply it. But I think an even better way too, it's like, is it adding onto your life or is it taking away, right?
That too. Oh, that's a
So
good
it's
one.
like, that's how you can decide like what's a dangerous belief system, what can lead to something dangerous, what can lead to something positive that can impact me in a positive way,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, yeah, it's like practices like that, right? Like, let's say like you're just against meditation, right? And it's just like, meditation, that's just not really for me. You can do it if you want to, but
Yeah.
you can't change my mind about it. And the
Yeah,
person's like,
people's like, oh,
yeah,
it's a
but it's
waste
like,
of time. It's
yeah,
this or
waste of time.
that.
Maybe that works for you because you have like nothing to do or whatever. But
Yeah,
I'm a busy person anyway. I'm just gonna get stuff done. You
yeah,
can go meditate and envision. They have like this
see.
stereotype about it, right?
That's
Whatever.
true.
And then but you start explaining to them the science, right? Like, you appeal to them in a
There
logical
actually
way,
is science
right? There is
behind it
science.
too.
Exactly, and you start to convince them, right? And then it's maybe they start to change their mind. They're like, okay, maybe I should start giving it a try. Maybe I can deal with the problems that I already have in a better way. And so now you have this topic, meditation. Will it add to my life or will it take away? It can't take away from your life. It's only beneficial. So you fit it into your life, fit it into your routine. You make time for it, and you see positive impact from it.
For sure.
So,
I think that has to do too. Like, I don't know. I guess they would be considered extreme, but they're actually examples.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like people at a certain point thinking slavery was okay, and then even like people at a certain point thinking cigarettes were okay.
Yeah.
And it was so ingrained in the culture that vehicles started having ashtrays built into them.
Mm-hmm.
It was so ingrained in the culture that people literally would have just slaves and other people wouldn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
And at a certain point, do you think like some person decided, hey, this is wrong, but like it's crazy. Like, I want to know what leads a person to, I guess, being on the right side of history, right? Quotation marks, because you kind of, in those scenarios, you are on the right side of things.
Yeah.
But I guess when it comes to everything else too, it could be a little difficult. I guess it also depends on what you're talking about and what it is.
Yeah, because then by like examples like that, it's like you want to think that maybe there is a black and white to things,
But, oh no.
It's like maybe there is, because like it can go down a certain way where like cigarettes, black or white, black it's bad, it takes away from you more than it benefits you, and slavery, does it add to your life or take away? I guess it depends on which side of the equation you're asking. But at the end of the day, what helped with that decision was like the ability to empathize and realize, if I were in their shoes, I wouldn't like this, So it's like,
for sure. The slavery side of things.
Yeah, the slavery side of things. So it's like,
and you still see like cigarettes and stuff though, and you can like sit down and argue with someone and be like, you shouldn't do that. Show them lists of things why you shouldn't do that. Science, everything, and they would still continue to do it.
Yeah, just live and let live, man.
I was gonna say though, at what point is that sort of a bad mindset? And should us as individuals try to, or at a certain point do we have to be, hands up, I really can't do much?
We should definitely still try, and always try, because like if, that's someone's brother, husband, father, etc. You know what I mean? If you can be a positive impact in that person's life, you're not only positively impacting that person's life, but like everyone around that person
Everyone
because they were
around
able to
them.
quit.
Oh,
You know,
that's so good.
so it's like never think that you're doing too much if you know it's for the right reasons. You know, so it's like because I think it comes down to having like a selfish mindset because you're only thinking for yourself.
For
This
sure.
takes my stress away, and that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
This gives me temporary relief, and that's all that matters, rather than thinking, I might die an early death. I'm not going to be there for my grandchildren. I'm not going to be there for the people around me that love me. So it's like, I guess, what can you identify as like what's selfish and what's not? I think that's a good way to start questioning things, because it's like it also comes from like a lack of empathy. You're not empathizing with your family members, the people around that could potentially lose you.
Yeah.
It's like you're only caring about yourself, really.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's with like a lot of like a lot of serious topics that need to be like just eliminated from your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like with positive practices, same thing. Like, is it going to add to my life? Is it going to take away? What can I actually implement? What can I get rid of? And
I'm trying to think of what something I guess could be positive, right?
mm-hmm.
But maybe it's seen bad.
It's seen as bad. There's a lot of examples, because like there's also a point where it's like you said, there's this point of like too open minded, and like there's a lot of movements nowadays where it's like people are just very, they want to just be a part of something, right? And you can just kind of tell, like, they just want to be a part of something. Like, for example, I guess the most common hypocrisy out there is like climate change activists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just call these people out. It's like they're no, it's because like it's a funny example, because like they're willing to call out other people, right? This is an example of like, oh, I see the value in it now. Now I'm going to try and convince other people of it, right? And so they go on this like crusade of trying to change other people, and like, recycle, throw away this stuff. Plastic, why are you buying plastic for? Like there's people who go to extreme levels and lengths, and they just view everyone as like lesser than them. Like, oh, you don't care about this planet, you don't care about this. You know what I mean? And sometimes they may be 100% aligned, but they're not going about it the same way. But for the majority of these like climate change activists, they really just want to be a part of something, to speak out against something. That's good, makes you feel good, but it's like at the end of the day, it's selfish, because with these people, and there's been like interviews and debates with these kind of people, but it's like you ask them what the leading driver of climate change, and it's like animal products, right? Animal farming, and it's like you contribute to that by your dollar's your vote, and you're contributing to structure of animal farming, which causes the most climate change, more than all the transportation combined. All these studies, all this stuff. And then they're like, oh, but I don't know if I could do that. So it's like that's when you get to a point where it's like, are these people really doing it because they care about the issue, or just because it's like a social gathering, just like because it's a trend, being a part of something. And it's like that's when you're not really like aligned with what it is you believe in. You can take questioning to a certain extent, but you don't really believe in what it is you're saying. You're just there because it's like you want to feel like you're speaking out against something, like you feel like you're being like a social justice person. You're just speaking out for justice, and then it's like, oh, but actually I can't do that. So it's like, how do you expect change from others if you can't change yourself? So like that's the other end of it. The people who go out there trying to change people, and it's like, have you even like been working on yourself, or you're just going to call out everyone else as like doing the wrong things in your mind
instead of looking within? And
you can't even look within. And this same like phenomenon is like found in like religion. It's found in just like other like movements like that. It's like they look at other people. Oh, like I'm a Christian, right? Let's say like this person says they're a Christian, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone who's not is suddenly, like this, or it's like you don't identify with what I identify with, therefore we're not on the same. I'm like, or maybe they do see them as the same, but like, oh, I'm sorry, this person's just going down the wrong path. Too bad they won't. Like you see them suddenly as different from you, and so what all these movements and religion and stuff is doing, it's like. It's causing people to identify so strongly with something that anyone who's not that is suddenly less than you.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? You start to see everyone in a darker light, in a darker setting. So like, if you're not a climate, if you're not
if you're not activisting, if you're not an activist for things that I'm activist
for, yeah, exactly,
then
you're part of the problem. You're this, not knowing that you were once also not that person. Regardless.
Oh, that's a good point.
And even if someone doesn't want to be Christian, like they're Muslim, oh man, they're going. I feel bad for them. I'm sorry that they were born on that side of the world. If only they could come to the truth. Like who's to say whose truth is who, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard because when each religion requires you to be faithful to that religion, you're kind of forced to believe that, oh wait, I need to, like, I have to believe this, like that's what faith is, and so you can't like really look at other things.
Interesting.
Because then that's like betraying your own religion.
Interesting.
So like you have this problem where if everyone thinks they're right and no one's really accepting of criticism, they just say, oh, feel bad for you, you're a part of the problem. Because every movement, religion, or group thinks that if everyone were like them, the world would be a better place. But if everyone is also thinking that, that's the problem.
Is that where the polarization starts to
happen? Exactly. Because people, instead of learning how to coexist with each other, we're trying to force other people to be in our group as well,
You just make me realize, too, that maybe it's more than just whether someone is on the right side of things or the wrong side of things, or if they believe a certain thing, if they don't believe a certain thing. I think the whole movement of where it starts to be like getting closer to truth, like we like to say, is simply being like, hey, I don't really know about what you're talking about. And I think people tend to just assume they know before they even sit down and understand and talk to someone from that side of things.
Exactly.
And I think maybe they'll sit down and realize, hey, we're not that different from each other. Or, hey, this and this and that. And then I think it's just about having open and candid conversation. And I think that's where you slowly start to, lessen the gap of polarizing people and seeing them as the enemy. This and that. I guess, like, before you even discern a person that you don't even have a clue of as an enemy, like, are you willing to at least sit down and have a conversation with them?
Exactly.
And then make your points.
Exactly. Yeah, because obviously both people are going to have their own points, their own opinions. We're not saying everyone's going to come with, like, the same opinion or, like, even be receptive to it. But at least see the other person as, like, a human, as an equal, not as, like, oh, you don't identify with what I identify as? Okay, then you're the issue.
Yeah,
You're the problem. And that's just not the right way to go about it.
I think it's about just taking a chance. Yes, you disagree. Yes, you're complete opposites on, a paper, basically, I guess.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, like, human and, you bleed, I bleed, we die, we can sit down and talk.
Exactly.
And I think that's probably the most basic way to come to some sort of understanding. Because I think you can disagree and, you can still be okay with people.
Yeah.
But it's also about, are you willing to even have, that little bit of a, conversation where we're both kind of sitting on edge a little bit. But at least we're willing to do that.
Exactly. Okay, what do you say about this then? Like, let's say they just reach an understanding and their understanding is that they agree to disagree.
Oh, is that okay? See? And I guess that's where it becomes situational. But it's also like, at a certain point, you can tell, like, because this goes back to, like, are we, like, yes, try. Right? Trying to expose that side of things, but at a certain point, like, should we just let off the gas a little bit because we know, like, maybe we're just hitting a stone wall. We're just keep hitting this wall over and over, but you're still trying, right?
Right.
But, like, is there a point where you can decide, hands up, I'm like,
I'm not gonna try and keep pushing forward.
Why should I?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't think so. But, like, it's also hard because a person with the wrong mindset can have that same mindset of, like, I need to keep pushing this forward.
See, that too.
Like,
there's always opposite ends of the coin.
Yeah, like, if you do the example with, like, slavery, for example, right? And it's, like,
extreme.
People arguing with each other. Hey, but this has always benefited us. This is the way we've always done things. Why would we even think about getting rid of such a valuable resource, right? And the other person's like, no, but these are humans.
No,
these are people that feel. You don't like if you're in their position. And they're just like, you know what? Well, let's just agree to disagree. And the other person's like, you're right. We're not getting anywhere. Like, no, like, we need people who are going to keep pushing until that thing is over with, and that's what happened. If people just gave up the moment they met some resistance, like, these people aren't going to change. I guess we should just stop.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, it's a matter of, like, educating people. It's a matter of having these discussions. It's a matter of having conversation. And that's why I hate how, like, in today's society, like, people are kind of closed off to criticism. Everyone's so, like, sensitive and, like, wants to walk around eggshells and kind of not really mess with too much. But it's like, if there's an issue in society that's, like, dangerous or can get to a dangerous point, I think it's a matter of questioning it and having conversations. If anything, having even more conversation rather than just saying, no, let's not talk about that. Like, why are you even talking about that?
You bring up another point that makes me think, when you have a conversation and you say, point, and they say a point, and does that other person have to be, on a certain, I don't know if you would say like a scale from closed-minded to open-minded. Like, do they have to be swaying more towards being more open-minded to, hey, okay, I understand, make a change, or hey, I understand, but I'm still gonna do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
And like, how, like, that's the difficult part for me to kind of reason with,
Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure everyone's met someone very stubborn on what they have to say and believe what they have to say no matter what. And yes, we continue to talk about it. We always will continue. But at what point do we see that this person is just not on a side where they're even open to taking in the information, looking within themselves, and then making a change?
That's the tough part.
Like, do they just want to argue to argue?
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. That's the tough part too, though, because like when the law is on your side, it's very difficult to do anything further than that. Because if it were up to those people back then, they'd be like, oh well, you keep doing this, I'm gonna throw you in jail. If you keep doing this, there's some kind of punishment. But where it's legal, there's no punishment. It's just a matter of literally changing the entire system to support that. Because again, when like women lacked rights, right? When blacks lacked rights, they had the law on their side. You could argue with them all you want, but at what point can you actually do something about it? At what point can you, even how angry you get, beat them up for it? Like you'll get thrown in jail. So it's like the law is on their side because that's the way things were at the time.
Yeah.
But does that mean that just because that's at the point you shouldn't keep pushing it?
Yeah.
So yeah, legality does not equal morality because these are morals. We shouldn't want to do that to our fellow human simply because of the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. You want to be in that position. And I think if the more you apply that, the more you learn to like empathize, you can get to that point. So I think it's less of like intelligence. It's more of like listening to your empathy, because like closed-mindedness is usually equated to like intelligence. Like how much am I allowed to let enter? How much am I allowed to like not? But it's more about like what speaks here. You know what I mean? Because I guarantee if you put that person in that place, they'd be like, no, I never want to go through that again, and I don't ever want to put anyone through that again.
For sure.
So with things like that, when the law's on your side, it's very difficult, to make a change because there's no punishment for it.
Yeah.
You can only take it so far through conversation, and I think that's for whatever movements come up, like that's what it has to be. It's just willing to have that conversation, keep pushing at it, keep having these talks, and obviously there's a point where you're not going to be like, let's say you and me disagreed on the topic of veganism. I'm not going to keep inviting you to my house just to like throw an argument at you, right? Like, hey man, come over real quick. Hey man, come over. We need to have a talk. Or hey, come over. Come over for some dinner. And then I start talking to you about that. Yeah. Like at what point is that just gonna get it's not gonna get anywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But does that mean that I should just stop talking about it altogether? Stop trying, or when it gets brought up, or I see that there's an issue, like let's say you start having inflammation issues, right? That's my opportunity to bring it up, because I'm not gonna stop that just because you don't see it as a moral issue, because it is a moral issue, and I see it as like, okay, well, what avenue can I attack that from? You know what I mean? So it's like there's opportunities to bring it up at every point. You can make it relevant at any point, whatever it is. So that's the way I see things that need to be like discussed, like moral issues that need to be solved. It's like things like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think about that?
That leads into a whole thing too.
It does.
But I feel like it just really ties into maybe like a wrap up type thing. Questioning, having conversations. If you disagree with someone, simply have a conversation versus argue. Simply because arguing is just, I'm right, I'm gonna argue that I'm right, and the person is thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I guess a conversation is maybe where you come to some sort of a conclusion, and hopefully it's good.
Yeah.
But I guess depending on the conversation, you can decide whether it's good or bad.
You see, and that's the difficult part too, because when you have two people that go in with the same mindset of like, okay, like let's say they take this advice, right? Oh yeah, keep pushing at it. Okay, cool. And then you have a Christian and a Muslim trying to convince each other their beliefs, like, well, why don't you, all this stuff, constantly trying to push it on each other. Like, they're not chances are they're not going to fold and just say, you know what, yeah, maybe your religion is the right one, or maybe
Yeah.
yours is the right. You know, they can't say that to each other because they're both going at it with the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or like if you had a conversation, for example, with
Yeah.
someone who was trying to, let's say, what's the word? Not indoctrinate, but like what's it called? Like when you not transition someone, when you convert someone, someone's trying to convert you right, to that religion. At what point do you want that person to just keep pushing at it, keep just trying.
See, and that's why too I asked that, because I'm just like, at what point, does it become like some sort of harassment?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think maybe that's why it's about having just conversation and just sitting down. You never know what it could lead to. Maybe a conversation doesn't always have to be an end. It doesn't always have to, it can start again multiple times, right? At least you're having those conversations.
Yeah.
And I think if people weren't having those conversations, we wouldn't be in the time we are. We wouldn't be how we are with people.
Exactly.
Our society wouldn't be a certain way. Whether, you say it's going good or it's bad,
Yeah.
It's going way better, I would say.
Oh, yeah. In the grand scheme of things, because that's another thing that people try to make it seem that society's just in a terrible place.
Yeah.
Conservatives look at it as like look at all these, people that are just snowflakes and always find something to complain about.
Yeah.
And then you look at the liberal side and they're arguing the same thing, like, oh my God, society's also in a terrible spot. We need to keep, going. Everyone's always like against us and all this stuff. It's like you're so focused on, all these minor issues. They forget to realize that the basic necessities are now being met. Our lifespans have increased by so much. We have things that can prevent and treat illnesses, so it's like all this stuff. You have laws that protect you now. So it's like in the grand scheme of things, if you look at humanity and our like lifespan back then, how much we had to worry about just survival in general and where we're at now, it's obviously a lot better.
Yeah,
people forget that. People forget that, and it's like it's not a matter of just we're already in a better spot. Just stop progressing, because technically 100 years ago you were in a better spot than the 100 years before that.
That's true.
So you're not just gonna stop there, and then the other people are like, oh no, well, we're still in a terrible spot, and they forget to look at the past. So it's like you need to have a balance. You can't just say, oh, we're in a better spot now. Let's just leave it how it is.
And whatever.
And then you also can't be the person that's like, damn, we've gotten nowhere. This sucks. We gotta just, whatever. They forget to look at the current present or at the whole scheme of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a balance when it comes to stuff like that too.
I agree with that, man.
Yeah.
I feel like overall that was pretty good. And I feel like, if you were to, what would you give someone listening to this? Whether they're questioning their own things, where they want to have a difficult conversation, maybe some little tiny tips, something that they can take away, hopefully help them make it a little better. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, it depends on what side of things you're on. Like, if
it's
you know
So,
someone.
it's so based on what you're talking about.
Yeah, because if you know someone that's like constantly trying to make you believe the same things they believe, know that maybe you should offer the counter to it, counter to it, and you push like your stance on it. That starts an argument rather than just them forcing you, feeling like you're just taking it and listening all the time. Starts to have some counterpoints. Maybe do your research on it, because you really don't know whether they're right or wrong. But if you know that you obviously don't want to be dealing with that kind of stuff, all right, let me instead of like resistance being all the way over here, you're here. You push back. Push back that meter back towards them. Maybe they'll even start to realize, oh dang, maybe I'm in the wrong here. Maybe I should stop talking about it.
See, even that too.
But if you're the person who what's it called? You're on the other end of things, and you're the one that wants to, push something out there. Go in there with an open mind. Go in there realizing that, that you shouldn't just try to convince someone to be who you are, to believe the same things you believe. You should go out there if you believe that it's genuinely, healthier for them or like safer for them, or it benefits that person. That's when you go out and push it.
I guess that's where your fight is just.
Exactly, yeah, because you can actually justify that. If someone's smoking cigarettes, go out there and push the opposite end of like, okay, they like smoking cigarettes is bad. So you provide things, you keep pushing it, you keep going. So it's like you can stand up for certain things, whether it's like in the small scheme or the grand scheme. You can go out there with a healthier mindset of just saying, I'm right, you're wrong. You just need to do what I'm doing because I'm doing it.
For sure.
It's like there needs to be some kind of logic. There needs to be some kind of evidence behind it. There needs to be something that actually provides value.
Yeah.
You know, so like you need to go at it with that mindset and be prepared to face resistance.
For sure.
You know, so you just gotta be
I like
educated
that.
on what you're talking about.
I like that. Yeah, and I think that actually has a huge point with it too.
Being educated.
Like, yeah, understanding what you're even saying, guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. But yeah. What do you
I
think about
think that this was actually really good, and everyone out there listening, watching, viewing, subscribing,
that?
go ahead and comment down below. Tell us what you guys think. Tell us what you guys feel about this conversation. You know, if there's specific moments where you've had a conversation and it just keeps leading or feeling a certain way, tell us about it. And if you relate to this, took something away, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share it with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And rate, actually, guys, rate it 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, guys.
Exactly.
Just do it.
Yeah, and that's about it.
And that's it.
All right.